Greetings, YouTube, LMS Tactical. Hope everybody's doing good. If you're offended by strong language or hardcore conservative reality, this ain't the channel for you. I like all videos, for those that are new to my channel, I don't plan anything out. I get a subject in my head, turn on the camera, and just see what comes out, and that's why I don't sound organized. I'm not. I just kind of babble what I believe. Now, the phrase that came to my mind this morning was "let it go." Now, a lot of people, one of the things that really pisses people off, if they're having a hard time in life and, whatever, a broken relationship, or somebody says, "Hey man, just let it go," that can rub people the wrong way. What do you mean let it go? First of all, I want to solve it. Number two, some of us get addicted to hanging on to our agony. I've been known to do that too. But at the end of the day, letting things go is almost always the best fucking solution when there's not a viable opposite solution. And in this case, this is what made it come to my head. Let's talk about two countries that I know something about. One I know a lot about, and one I know a little about, and that's the United States and South Africa. But this could be applied to anywhere, any country, any culture. All right. So in South Africa, for those that have no clue what's going on or what went on, or are not interested in South Africa, there's an awful lot going on. And that's one of the reasons I avoid the subject lately, because it's very hard to bring people up to speed that aren't following it. And in many cases, it's not your fault, because there's been a media blackout on the horrors of the racist horrors that are going on in South Africa, the genocide and just the slaughtering of innocent people. There's been a media blackout because, for reasons that I've gone into many other times, it doesn't fit any political agenda or narrative. But it's happening. And a lot of that is at least on the surface, it appears to be based on crimes of the past, sins of our fathers, so to speak. And in the case of South Africa, of course, I'm talking about the establishing of the white man on the continent, 400 plus years ago. And in more recent years, apartheid, which is, that ended many years ago, I think in the 90s. So you've got, it's not just blacks versus whites in South Africa, in case you're not aware. It's tribes against various ethnic tribes against whites and against each other. There's a race of people in Africa, and South Africa specifically, and they're referred to as the coloreds. That's not my name, that's the name that they call themselves. And they're not dark enough for, like, let's say the Zulus or whoever. But there's many different ethnic groups in South Africa. And let me tell you, if the white people left today and there wasn't a white person on the continent, these ethnic groups would be slaughtering each other over shit that most of them can't articulate. Things that either happened, or they were told happened, or it never happened. So you've got an awful lot of bloodshed. I cannot tell you the amount of videos people send me from South Africa on a daily basis that show whites and blacks being horrifically murdered. And I mean, people filming it while they're laying naked in the street and somebody's just smashing them to death with bricks, while 30 people sit around videotaping it and chanting in glee, just jubilant glee. They're loving it. It's like an orgasm, because they don't like that fucking guy's color. And there's outside influences that come into South Africa for work, labor forces that come in from Zimbabwe. And, the Zulus think they're still in their work, so they pull them out of trucks and burn them alive. That kind of shit. Now, here in America, we don't have that type of violence on the streets, not to that magnitude yet. And when I say yet, I certainly hope it never happens, but come on, man. I mean, you don't have to be a reader of tea leaves to see where not only America's going, but Canada, Europe, the whole world is in a fucking disarray right now. And it's not going to be solved by Mike and making a video, but this is more or less just for discussion. And, you know, you look at here in the U.S., the propaganda that has just driven the wedge between us, you know, in terms of race. You know, white people can be beaten to death by any minority anybody other than a white person. And 99% of the time, you're not going to know about it because it's not going to make the news. But if a white guy bumps into a black guy and somebody catches it on video, it's a fucking racist assault. And, you know, the fucking cities burn. You know, cops can kill as many white people as they want. Not a big deal. But if they happen to be to shoot down a black person who's running at them with a hatchet, they're out hunting black people. And when you start to interview, you watch some of the interviews and you talk to some of these people that are allegedly educated. I mean, they go to these higher education places, which are nothing more than communist propaganda machines, talking about the Ivy League, Harvards and Yales. And, you know, you understand how this happens. You know, you watch TV. I watch something called OAN. It's the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I can't stand her. She's a fake activist, you know. Absolutely one of the richest people on the planet through the white man's money and working with and for the white man, and acts as though she was as oppressed as they get. So she creates this network that's, you know, Black Love is the name of one show. Now they got another one, Black Fathers and Black Marriage, Black Lovers, Black fucking tennis shoes. And they just pump this in, you know, it's all about separating. It's not about Americans. It's not about Africans. It's about those who are victims and those who are the oppressors. I'm the oppressor because of the way I look. In these fucking teeny little mines, not gold mines. And it's just pushed. It's pushed on the kids. It's pushed by these communists that pose as teachers, that hate our system. When people get along, when society gets along together, the only people that are in danger are those little teeny groups of people at top that like to pull the strings and make shit happen, whether it's to influence an economy, a stock market, whatever, to win an electoral race. When people get along, there's danger for the real oppressors. And they're not going to have that. They're just not going to have it. And people that are not used to thinking for themselves fall right into it. There's a viral TikTok video right now on TikTok, and it's a young black lady, and she's going, I hate white people. I hate white people. Yeah, I hate white people. You know, everybody's reported it, doesn't get taken down. If I talk about I don't like my black truck, it gets taken down for racism. Hate speech. Yeah. And it's okay with the left because right now they've got the upper hand. Everything is in their favor, but they don't realize, and I mean all over the world, they don't realize this has been played out in history through you know, the days of Stalin, the Chairman Mao, the North Korea. It's the Iranians. When a small group of radical people up top can get a group of citizens to push a revolution and violence, that group of people feel like, hey man, I stand for something, man. I'm doing something. I'm a mover. I'm a shaker. I'm making change. And they don't realize, because they're not usually self-thinkers, or they wouldn't be that way. They're not readers. They don't understand history. Well, the history was written by the white man, so I ain't going to read that. Well, that's what you were told, you know. But if a white man tells you that the sky's blue, it's still fucking blue, whether you believe it or not. Are you going to not believe it because it was told you by a white guy? I mean, there are some realities in life, doesn't matter who the fuck tells you. But they don't realize that all those useful idiots that got together to help this group win an objective are the very first people exterminated once the goal is achieved. And the reason for that is that the people that were pulling the strings understand very clearly that those are the dangerous people, because they're so fucking ignorant that they can be spun in any direction to cause violence, like Antifa and BLM and shit like that. If we had an actual real fucking takeover of the society through a, martial law or whatever, and, Kamala Harris became the fucking supreme leader for eternity, the first people gassed after conservative veterans like myself would be the Black Lives Matter people, the Antifa people. That's not my fucking saying. That's history. History has proved over and over again that that's the way it works. These people don't fucking get that. But, back onto the theme of letting it go. Is there a time to let shit go? Yeah, fuck yeah. Listen, if a society is not willing to let go of things that happened in the past, and letting go is not to be confused with forgetting. I am a firm believer of the famous saying that those who forget the past are doomed to relive it. Never forget the past. That's why I couldn't believe they were tearing down our statues. You want that shit right up in there, man, so people fucking grow up and see it. Hey, mommy, who's that? Oh, he was a general, but he led a group of people that was fighting against, the northern half of the United States because they wanted slavery. And then it sparks discussion. When the statue's gone, little Johnny doesn't ask the question, does he? But there's a time to let things go. I got divorced after 20 years, and I was fucking bitter and hateful and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It wasn't until the moment I let it go that I was truly happy. And it's the same with anything you hang on to. At least with my divorce, I was directly affected by it. So hanging on was a little more understandable. But since there's nobody alive today that wore shackles of slavery in American history. Hanging on to it is a choice, and it's a detrimental choice that does nothing but keep people bitter, create generation after generation of so-called victims. And let's face it, being a victim has more benefits than not being a victim. If I could blame every single failure on the fact that I was, a chubby white guy, if I could just base every failure, if I could blame all of my failures on the way I look, why would I want to let that go? Now, I don't have to achieve anything anymore. And every time I saw a pudgy white guy driving by in a fucking expensive car and he was a doctor or a brain surgeon, I just call him a sellout. Because I couldn't acknowledge that he is in my situation, but he rose to the top in spite of it. I couldn't acknowledge that, or that would be acknowledging that I'm a lazy fuck that needs my fake victim status. And that's what we're dealing with. No country has ever progressed, ever, by holding on to the past. It's not possible. And there's not a fucking society in history that didn't achieve growth without stomping on fucking some other society of people. Whether it was the Native Americans who slaughtered each other and kept people in captivity and sold slaves and butchered and raped, or the South American Incas and the Aztecs, who were notorious from gathering up slaves from neighboring competing tribes and using them for sacrifice and field labor, expanding into territories that were owned by a weaker group of people. It's the way things are. So the only logical move is to remember the past, take the good from it and use it. Don't hang on to the bad parts of it. Don't feel guilty for anything you didn't have direct involvement in, and help your society grow. And the way you help your society grow is through success. Right now, the Palestinian people believe that the only problem with the Palestinian people is Israel, and that if the Jews were all gone from the Holy Land, their lives would be better. Anybody with a fucking brain cell that's even halfway breathing knows that if the Israelis vanished off the earth today, you think the fucking Middle East and specifically the Palestinians are going to be living in peace? No, they'll go back to doing what they always did, which is throwing homosexuals off roofs, slaughtering people that were non-believers, stoning people to death because this kid went out on a date with that kid and they didn't get, this is, it's doing away with a society is not going to change anything. It's just going to switch the targets from the people that need targets. Because there are two types of people on earth, and those that want to live together and grow, and those that want to isolate and destroy. And people, young people specifically, need to figure out what part of history they want to be on. What side of history do you want to be on? Do you want to grow and look at things realistically? Or, do you want to be like in America? We got groups of black people who are, wanting to redo science. They literally are the movement. I can't remember the name of them, but they're literally saying that, look, we're using white people's science and white people's math. Think about that. If 2 and 2 equals 4 in Saudi Arabia 5,000 years ago, I think it still equals 4 in America in 2021, no matter what color the person was that fucking figured it out. But that just shows you the level of ignorance and stupidity and hatred. I just saw another TikTok video today where there's some black people they're literally making a big deal out of it. They're saying that we've been lied to. This is no bullshit. You can go look it up. We've been lied to, man. Some other guy made a map, that they suppressed it, and the real map of Africa shows that Africa is bigger than it is on these white people's maps that they've been pushing down our throats. Rah, 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 we've been lied to. Africa is bigger. It's bigger than Europe. It's bigger. It's big. The fuck does that matter? First of all, it's bullshit, but let's just assume that I don't give a fuck if Africa is 10 times bigger than you thought it was. So what does that do? Little teeny egos that need to feel good. Yeah, well, I may have not been able to develop anything that lasts more than 2 seasons, a grass hut and with mud walls for fucking 3, 4, 5,000 years, but my continent's bigger than your continent, so I'm in charge. All life came from here. What does that fucking do for anything except a weak ego? What's the point of this fucking video? I don't know, man. Either you get it or you don't. And if you do get it, leave a comment and tell me what you got out of it. And if you don't, just move on. LMS Tactical, stay safe.